In this video, we're going to use the vertical and horizontal layout in AppInventor to create a layout that looks like the one that we're looking at here. What I like about this screen in Plan Places Mobile, specifically for this class, is that we get to use a lot of the features of AppInventor and a lot of the features of the phone. You see we have GPS, chronometer, pause GPS button. Then an option to take a photo, an option to save. It'll be several videos as we work this all out, but nonetheless, this is a very active, very multimedia screen that does what we want to do in mobile, and that is combine data from different sources to produce information. A couple of small things I'm going to change as we do this, and honestly, as I said in the video, the mobile app user experience video that I'm currently showing on the screen capture, as you do your own work, it's kind of like remodeling your house. If something is just a little bit not level and you know it, you'll see it all the time and it will bother you. So there are a few things I'm going to change here. First of all, the newer thing in Android is not to have a label and a text field, but to take the label and make it the hint of the text area, or the edit text is what we usually call it. The advantage of that is that we save very precious real estate. Every pixel here counts, so we want to make good use of every pixel. If we take this and make it a hint, then it appears in the text area. We save one widget for each of these fields. One other thing is that I will probably eventually use icons for each of these. We know that we like icons because they don't have to be translated and they speak very quickly to the user. So that's a couple changes I'm going to make. So I might put these three buttons all on one row. Anyway, how do we get a layout like this? Well, it's important to think about being an Android programmer, what kind of devices you're programming for, and that is, who knows? Our friends over in iOS have life a bit easier there because Apple is the only company that makes an iPhone. It's a very standard dimension, standard look and feel, and that's the advantage of Apple is that you're programming for a known and limited set of devices, and any peripherals that attach to that also are able to use a known size. Okay, now let's look at it from the Android perspective. From our perspective in Android, we have the marketplace of ideas, and that is several manufacturers compete. And as they compete, they come out with better products on a very frequent release cycle. So you have a choice. You can choose, you can make trade-offs. And honestly, I think there's a lot more innovation when you have competition like that. The flip side is for developers like us, we have to think about a flexible design. It's not a good idea to say, put this here on this pixel, put that on that pixel, something like that. We have to think fluid design so that it looks good in any orientation, any implementation. Okay, with that, let's go to AppInventor. I'm going to start a whole new project here. This is going to be our Plant Places app. So I'm simply going to go to Projects and Start New Project, and we'll call this one Plant Places, or Plant Places Mobile, whatever. And okay, in the real Plant Places, the first screen is actually a color match search, so that you can take a picture of something or open a photo, and you can see a list of plants that have colors in that photo. I'm gonna jump straight to GPS a plant here, honestly, because there's more that we can do with GPS a plant than color match search for this class. So first, what do we want to do? Well, we have to think of the entire layout here. This is kind of confusing. I mean, what is our layout? Is it a grid? Is it horizontal? Is it vertical? Well, it is actually a combination of horizontal and vertical. So we have to think about nesting layouts, one layout within another. The basic layout, we have a vertical row here, a vertical row here, 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 and here, and here. So the starting layout is vertical. Within the vertical, we have a little bit of horizontal going on here, and then a nested vertical. So quite a bit of nesting, and that's where the magic really happens. Okay, as I say, I am going to simplify things a little bit for us, but let's start with our layout, and I'm going to choose vertical layout and just drop this on the screen. There we go. Okay. Now, as I said, the trick is nesting, so the vertical is our overall layout. Now we have that top row, okay? And the top row is really a horizontal layout, but before I even get into that, looking at this is going to be hard to work with. Let's change height to fill parent. Okay, there we go. And let's change width to fill parent as well, so that our new vertical layout, which I said is kind of organizing the entire layout, that consumes the entire screen. Okay, now within this, we're going to add a horizontal layout. There we go. And for this one, we don't want to do height fill parent, but we do want to do width fill parent. And that drags it all the way across the screen. Now, the left component, oops, sorry, one second. The left component, we could do a nested vertical layout, but come to think of it, that's really a grid because we have labels and we have more labels, but you notice it's kind of 1 row, 2 row, 3 rows, and then 2 different columns. Oh, there we go. So let's use the grid layout. And one moment, please. We will just grab table arrangements, what it's called. There we go. Okay, columns 2, rows, let's make rows 3. That'll work. Now, very important with user interface. If you have something that the user cannot change, make it a label. If you have something the user can change, make it a text box. What I mean is, don't go with the temptation of making a text box that's disabled, even if it's something that changes by the Android operating system itself. In other words, what I'm saying, if we take a look at this, we have latitude, longitude, GPS, age, all of which are labels. These values that follow them will be changed, but they will be changed by the Android operating system itself. Make them labels. It's tempting to make them text fields and disable them because they're changing, but if you make a text field, the user thinks, hey, I can change this, and then the user's going to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to edit it. So we're going to make a grid of labels. I'm going to say label. Okay, and let's, for the label, we're going to say, I'm going to say just lat. I was debating about even having a label at all. But yeah, I think it's going to be worthwhile because so the trick with Android is that we're so scarce on screen real estate. We need to make such use of it. If we can avoid a label, let's avoid a label. If there's another way to say what it is, let's do that. But in this case, latitude and longitude, depending on where you are, it might not be obvious which is which. So if you're in a place where you're 2020 or 3030 or something like that, it might not be so obvious. So okay, label 2, we're going to call this one we'll call it LNG, and again we could call it, I guess we could call it, I don't know, longitude, but we'll just stick with that. Label 3. Okay, label 3 is the GPS age. Okay, GPS age. That's something I added more recently to the app. And by the way, the app that I show you, the screen capture, of course, is a live app. And it's something that I use quite a bit. I used it honestly quite a bit today, even GPSing some plants when I was out today. And so these are things just in me being a user I've found to be handy. So, okay, good. So we have our column, our first column. Now let's add some, whoops, see, I just did it myself. Now let's add some values. So text for label 0. Okay, now you see label 1, 2, 3. Now normally I think that we should name our variables, especially if we're programming against them. In other words, we'll program against something that changes. These aren't going to change though. So I don't really feel the need to change their names, but the values are going to change. So latitude, longitude, GPS age, those are going to change. So I do want to call this one, instead of label 4, I'll call it LBL latitude value. And trust me on this, the variable name under the covers, give it a long name, don't abbreviate. If you abbreviate, you will forget what the abbreviation is. Okay, it might take a moment to capture GPS, so let's give it a default value at 0.0, so we know that GPS simply hasn't started yet. Okay, next label. Okay, and this one, again, we're going to rename, and we'll call it LBL longitude value. Okay, and we'll give it a default value of 0.0. And then GPS age. I'll be honest with you on this one. I don't know if we're going to be able to do GPS age in AppInventor. I did it in traditional Android Studio and Eclipse because there's a feature called a chronometer. I don't see the chronometer here. AppInventor is wonderful, love it. It is a bit simplified in some areas, and that's one. I think it's one at least. So we will go ahead and say, we'll say rename, and we'll say chrono. Okay, and see, and there again, chronometer, or let's just call it GPS age. That's even better. Okay, we'll go ahead and give it a value because I do want it to look like the live app, so 000. Okay, now the button we said is going to be a pause button. One trick is, again, this is something that we have a little more control over in the traditional Android Studio. I don't believe we can make this guy flush right, and that's the only thing I have in the traditional app that is indeed flush right. In any case, we've done the first part. The next few are going to go pretty quickly. Okay, plant name, location, description. Okay, so text box. And again, we're going to use a little bit of trickiness here. So width, we're going to make fill parent. Let's go ahead and that way it will adjust as the user wants to maybe do portrait or landscape mode or whatever. The real trick here is the hint. And the hint, we're going to say plant name. And in real life, this is an autocomplete text. We're using a text box here. That'll work for us. Okay, and then another text box for, okay. You see it stacks right underneath because it's this vertical layout. So width will be, again, fill parent, okay? And that is location. So we're going to say location. Okay, and one more text box, which we're going to say is description. Okay, and description. Okay, width, fill parent. Okay, now again, we're going to be programming against these because when the user enters something into these fields, we want to know what they entered. So it's very important that we rename these. So txt plant name, okay, and txt location, okay. And by location, I don't mean latitude and longitude. I mean give it a name. So Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden, something like that. Okay, so kind of a classification of a location, really. Okay, txt description. And okay. Finally, the buttons. Now, in the real app, I wanted the save button to scream and be easy to see. So I put that on its own row because honestly, when I use this, a lot of times I'm out and you know, I'm holding it with one hand, holding a camera with another hand, or trying to see a plant label, something like that. We could do that, or we could do our friend, the grid again. Let's try a grid this time. So we're going to do a table arrangement, drop them towards the bottom, and we're going to say columns 3, rows 1, width fill parent. Okay, and now with that, we can just drop 3 buttons on. So button 1, and button 2, and button 3. Okay, hopefully, how did that go? Well, looks like we missed one. And what I wonder is it going to get mad at me and tell me there's not room, or is it going to squeeze it? I'll tell you what, if we start, I'm going to add some text into these. So text for button 1, we're going to say save. Okay, and then button 3, we're going to say photo. Okay, and then button 4, we're going to say open. Okay. And my poor photo button still isn't showing up. So let's see. Did I save my grid here? Yeah, we have 3 columns and 1 row. Okay. So what happens if I make that 2 rows? Still doesn't show up. Our poor photo button is gone. So okay, let's see if we can get this to work then. That's our save. That's the missing photo button. I'm going to remove him. Yep. And that's our open button. Okay, let's try the button again one more time. Actually, I'll tell you what, can we just put him over here? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay. Okay, a little moving it around, but eventually we got it. Uh-oh, no, come back. Okay, you come over here. Oh, daggone it, now he hit the other one. All right. Okay, so, we might have him a little bit out of order, but that's okay because we haven't made him do anything yet. So we're going to make this one say save. We're going to make this one say open. And this one say photo. Okay, there we go. Now it looks kind of goofy with them all clustered there together. So let's go to width and let's make them all 33%. See if that makes things look a little bit better. Okay, 33%. And finally save, we're going to make 33%. And okay. Okay, a little bit better. We could probably tweak it, make it 30%, give it a little space for the margin around there. That would be fine. And this guy, we've kind of forgotten about, haven't we? So let's make this guy, this is our pause GPS button, so we'll call it BTN pause. Okay, and we're going to give that label. We'll say pause GPS. Okay. And actually I need to give these guys names too, don't I? So rename, we're going to say BTN photo. Oops, BTN photo. And then this guy will say BTN open. Okay, and save, we're going to say BTN save naturally. Now, what I want to do next is look for some clip art images. Pause will be easy to find. Save, open, photo, those will all be pretty easy to find. So what I'd really like to do is find a bit of clip art that we can use for images instead of text, because we know that images are always better. But let's go ahead and take a look and see how this looks in our emulator. So we will connect, and I'm going to pause the video because that will take just a moment. Now the app is loaded, and honestly, I think it didn't look too bad. I would like to get that pause button to the right. Maybe there's some tricks we can do to make that work. But you see the grid looks nice here. The buttons are all kind of in equal spacing, and also we have the text areas. The text fields are even. It looks fairly nice, I think. Naturally, there's more that we can do to make this work. There's a whole lot more that we have to do, but our goal right now is just to get that layout. Now, while the video was paused, I did take the liberty of finding a few clip art images that I can use. So I'm going to see how that looks, if we can, how the clip art will look. So for the pause GPS, I found a little pause image. We'll probably have to do a bit of resizing here because that's kind of big, isn't it? And honestly, what I probably should do, let's see, height, let's just make this a fixed number of pixels. So if we said maybe 25 pixels, how does that look? And okay. Okay, 25 pixels, it could be a little more than that. Let's go ahead and bump it up to maybe 35. Okay, and let's make it square, so we'll make the width 35 pixels as well. Okay, still doesn't look big enough, does it? So I might make that 50 and 50. The ideal thing would be to resize the image. Honestly, I just grabbed a few quick images. Now, with the pause GPS icon, I no longer need the word. Okay, now save. Okay, we can do the same thing with this. So I will go ahead and grab the image. Okay, save, and again, I'm sure it's going to need a bit of resizing, so we'll make them all 50 by 50. How about that? So 50 pixels. Actually, I'll tell you, the height is the only thing I'm really worried about. The width we've already set at 33%, so that's fine. Okay, take away the save text. We no longer need the text if we have the image. Okay, one other thing, it would be nice, I grabbed these just by doing a quick Google search. It would be nice to get them all from the same location so that they have a similar color scheme, which I didn't do. Either that or recolor them. Lots of options that we can do there. So, okay, height, we said we're going to do 50 pixels on this guy, and okay. And we will take away the word open. And finally, our take a photo. Okay, the image, camera, I just grabbed a camera image for that, and height, we'll go ahead and make at 50 pixels. Okay, so take your pick. Maybe it look better the other way. Maybe this is okay. So the one thing I would do is probably get a similar look and feel to all the clip art, because it does kind of look disjointed here, but nonetheless, I think we have a fairly good idea coming. So in the next few videos, we'll actually implement some of this, the GPS, the camera, and even saving to a database. So I'm looking forward to it. Meanwhile, I hope you learned a little bit about layouts, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you.